Hello, and welcome to Sips with a Specialist. I'm Danielle Linn, a specialist with the American History Department here at Cowan's Auctions, a Heinemann company, and I'm joined today with my colleague Kaylan Gunn, an associate specialist in the same department. And today we're going to be talking about Zouaves. And as good historians, we couldn't just pour any old cocktail. We had to tell you about the drinks that they were having during the Civil War.
Exactly.
In 1861, by far the most popular drink of choice was whiskey. And as much as I love a good bourbon, I wanted to look at some other things too. So we actually found a quote from an actual Zouave about another beverage.
He writes home, "You see I am well clad and lodged, and the regimental sutler gives us credit for such little extras as we may desire, and have every reason to be satisfied with our condition. By the by, I have just been, by pressing invitation, eating clams and drinking lager."
So we've poured up a local Cincinnati lager here, and we're going to toast the Zouaves.
To the Zouaves.
So if you've ever seen any Civil War images, you may have seen some interesting characters that don't look like they're wearing regulation uniforms. Maybe a red fez,
baggy pants,
a heavily embroidered jacket. Well, these are the Zouaves. The Zouaves were originally a Berber group in Algeria under the Ottoman Empire. They were renowned for their bravery and ferocity in battle, and they joined up with the French army in 1830 when they invaded Algiers. They inspired Zouave units created in the French army, which were very quickly filled with Europeans and across Europe and elsewhere.
Some of the other examples were the Papal Zouaves, the Polish Zouaves of Death, and even the Black Brazilian units serving in the Paraguayan War.
And of course, they came to America too, and that's thanks mainly to just one person, Ephraim Ellsworth. He was a man of humble origin, so he wasn't able to go to West Point, but he was always interested in militaria. And in his entire spare time, he read drill manuals, studied military tactics, and the like.
He actually took fencing lessons from a gentleman who was a former surgeon with the North African Zouaves, who had a Zouave drill manual with him and shared it with Ellsworth, who took it and ran with it.
To say the least. He took over the National Guards of Chicago and he renamed them the United States Zouave Cadets. And in 1859, he drilled them in this Algerian style, and they also adopted this unique style of dress.
One of the cadets wrote about the unique style of dress, saying that the uniforms consisted of, quote, a bright red chasseur cap with gold braid, a light blue shirt with more antique facings, a dark blue jacket with orange and red trimmings, brass bell buttons placed as close together as possible, a red sash and loose red trousers, russet leather leggings buttoned over the trousers, reaching from ankle halfway to knee, and white waist belt.
Quite the look. They toured throughout the Midwest and the East Coast prior to the Civil War. They inspired what was termed the Zouave craze. People went nuts for the look, for their military drills that had elements of dance, acrobatics, and gymnastics.
Theatrics.
Oh, yes. And they even performed for President James Buchanan on the lawn of the White House. One of the interesting things that we found recently in a consignment from the Lujan collection. And, you may have remembered we had a 2-day sale of Lujan's collection of Americana last November 2020. Mostly consisted of pottery, furniture, signs, that sort of thing. And it was the main focus of his collecting, but he also had some American history ephemera items as well. And we came across this, and there wasn't really much about it. It says the Cadets Terpsichorean Club, which is quite a name. Now, Terpsichore was the Greek muse of dance. So we immediately thought, wonder if it has something to do with the Zouaves, who were known to incorporate dance into their military tactics and drills. Well, a little bit of digging, finding some Ellsworth archives, as well as some newspaper articles, we were able to conclude that this was a dance club that was formed by the U.S. Zouave Cadets, and Ellsworth was, in fact, their president. And if we turn the card over, we actually see that Ellsworth has signed it with his trademark flourished E's initialing the back of the card. And this will be available in our June 25th American History auction upcoming this summer.
Exactly. So at the start of the Civil War, Ellsworth raised and commanded the 11th New York Infantry, recruited mainly from New York City firemen. So they took on the amazing name, the Fire Zouaves. So they saw early action in May 1861, mere hours after Virginia seceded. So they ended up raiding Alexandria to take it back from the Union and met little resistance.
But on the way out of town, Ellsworth saw that an inn had a Confederate flag flying on its roof, and this just wouldn't do. So Ellsworth, he went up and he took down the flag for the Union, but on his way down, he met the irate innkeeper, who was clearly a Confederate sympathizer, who shot Ellsworth point blank, and Ellsworth died right then and there. The innkeeper also met a sticky in from Ellsworth's Zouave brothers, but Ellsworth himself became a martyr and the first conspicuous death of the Union. He inspired poems, songs, and was probably some of the reason why so many Zouave units participated in the Union Army as well.
Yes, the Civil War saw the Union field over 70 different Zouave regiments. So one of those regiments was the 9th New York Volunteer Infantry, commanded by Colonel Rush C. Hawkins. So he raised the regiment for 2 years service, and they most notably participated in General Burnside's expedition in North Carolina, where they saw heavy action at Roanoke Island, and they also very notably participated in Antietam,
where they saw 233 casualties. Now, a somewhat sad fact is that the Zouaves saw higher casualty rates than conventional units, and this is theorized that part of the reason why that is because of their uniforms. It's hard to miss a red fez.
Exactly. So the Zouaves are very interesting themselves as Civil War regiments, and we were fortunate enough to get the consignment of the collection of the late Dennis Scher out of North Carolina. So he spent time after he moved to North Carolina getting really interested in the Hawkins Zouaves because of how much time they spent there. And his collection kind of provides a material culture map of everywhere the Hawkins Zouaves were during the war and then after as Veterans Association members. So one of the unique items in his collection is actually a CDV of Colonel Rush Hawkins,
who was a really interesting person. He distinguished himself during the Mexican War, and during the Civil War, after raising the Hawkins Zouave unit, he served with distinction, and he was wounded in action at South Mills in April 1862 in his left arm. He had actually married Anne Mary Brown of the prominent Brown family. You might have heard of Brown University. And after the war, he was a prominent book collector and art collector, and his collection of incunabula, early American imprints, and paintings is still at Brown University.
Now, speaking of Brown University, the collector of this amazing collection that we get to handle, Dennis Scher, was actually instrumental in the return of a Tiffany presentation sword that was presented to Colonel Rush Hawkins, getting that returned to Brown University after it had been stolen in the 70s. He served as an expert witness at trial and was honored at a celebration that the university had upon the return of the sword. So one of the amazing items also in the collection that will be coming up in our June American History auction is the Hallmark Fez of a Zouave. So this one is attributed to a Hawkins Zouave member, Charles Lyon, who was wounded at Antietam. And this fez will be featured with a larger archive of items attributed to Lyon, other personal effects, and uniform materials, but this one is pretty exciting to see the actual fez that one of these guys would have worn. So that's all coming up in the June 25th American History Live auction.
And join us in 2 weeks for another Sips with a Specialist video, and we'll leave you with a toast to the Hawkins Zouaves.
The Fightin' Ninth.